Okay, we can start
Recording in progress.
We can start with the roll call.
Okay. Committee Member Fasoon?
Here.
Committee Member Hodges is absent. Committee Member Larson?
Here.
Committee Member Lieberman?
Here.
Committee Member Melgen?
Here.
Committee Member Vigil McClanahan? Here. And Chair Mohammed.
Here. Now onto the land acknowledgement. The City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lishan. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to these indigenous peoples, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. We will now move on to the approval of minutes.
Do any of the members have comments or questions on the minutes from July?
I guess we can motion to a roll call for the.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Committee Member Fasoon?
Yes.
Member Larson?
Yes.
Member Lieberman?
Yes.
Member Melgen?
Yes.
Member Vigil McClanahan?
Yes.
Chair Mohammed.
Yes. And then we can move on to public comment for any members wanting to speak on an item not on the agenda.
If any members of the public would like to speak on Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature.
I did have a question. Normally, the agenda includes an item like 5-4 subcommittee updates, and the agenda for tonight does not. Was that just an oversight?
Yes, I think it is. Thank you for noting that. Yes, you're right. I don't see it on there, but it was intended to be on here. So I will have to look into that as we go. Thank you. Looks like we don't have any public comment.
Okay, we can now go on to item 4, which is announcements.
Yes, I have a few announcements today. First of all, we are in the middle of Albany Local Week, which is a week celebrating all things local, especially our great local businesses. So there's a few events going on. I think there's one happening tonight or happened today, and I think there's a few later this week. So I encourage everyone to check out the albanyca.org website to hear about everything that's happening this week. And then also on Saturday is Coastal Cleanup Day. There's several events going on around the Bay Area, but here in Albany we have an event at Albany Beach on the Bulb that's run by the Watershed Project, and that's going to be taking place from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturday. And everyone is encouraged to walk or bike or carpool if they plan to attend, since there is pretty limited parking. But it's just a great opportunity to do some active transportation. And then finally, I'll just remind everyone that we do have free compost at the Compost Hub available every Sunday from 12 to 4 at the Giltract Community Farm, which is just across the street here at the intersection of Marin and San Pablo. So I encourage everybody to start off fall with some compost for their soil. And then our major announcement of this evening is the introduction of our new Civic Spark Fellow, who's sitting next to me here. This is Sutton Payne, and I'll give him a minute to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you guys. I'm really excited to get working with you.
Any questions on the announcements?
I guess we can move on to public comment.
And if anyone in the public would like to comment using Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature.
Hello?
Yes, Lucinda,
Yes,
please go ahead.
This is Lucinda Young, and first I just wanted to thank the committee for meeting. I think everyone's probably noticed that the last couple of days we've had an air quality index of in the 150 range, and it's just a reminder, I think, to all of us of how important this committee's work is. We've been fairly lucky in the Bay Area this year, having avoided the worst of the wildfire smoke and the floods and heat wave that much of the world has experienced, but we are feeling some in the last few days. And I just wanted to, I think it's a reminder of just how important this committee's work is, and thank each and every one of you for participating in this committee, and to Michelle and the staff as well. I also just wanted to mention the last meeting, which was in July, there was a discussion about the DD funds that were available, and I was a little confused by that, so I spoke with our city council member, Preston Jordan, and I think there was some, he clarified for me that there is not a big surplus of DD funds, so I think there was some confusion at that meeting. I don't know if that's going to be clarified later on, but I did want to mention that at the July meeting, it appeared that there was a big surplus of DD funds that had not been used, and Councilmember Jordan had looked into that and said that's not correct. So I hope there'll be some clarification. If not now, then soon. Thank you.
I guess we can move on to discussion of the announcements. Any comments?
I'm happy to look into what the comment writer was talking about and remind myself of what we chatted about in the last meeting and all of that. So I can clarify that in the future.
Okay, I guess we can move on to item 5, which is presentation. Discussion and possible action, sorry.
Yes, so this item is a proclamation of appreciation for Lizzie Carrad. I think most of you know that Lizzie Carrad has left the city for an exciting new job in the county of San Mateo. And she has joined us tonight, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and promote her as panelist and then go ahead and read this proclamation for her. Let me share my screen. Okay. Let me make it a little bigger. A resolution of appreciation to Lizzie Carrad for her service to the City of Albany. Whereas Lizzie first joined the City of Albany in 2018 as a Civic Spark Fellow, working on the development of the 2020 Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And whereas Lizzie served as liaison to the Climate Action Committee and worked with us on numerous projects, plans, and programs to make Albany a more sustainable community. And whereas Lizzie has overseen the implementation of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan for the past 3 years. And whereas Lizzie was an exceptional mentor to Albany's Civic Spark Climate Fellows. And whereas Lizzie managed waste and recycling services for the city and carried out the difficult and complex work of implementing SB 1383. And whereas Lizzie's presence at Climate Action Committee meetings will be deeply missed. And whereas Lizzie's dedication to sustainability, waste reduction and recycling, and public service are an inspiration to all around her. And whereas Lizzie's contribution to the city will be sorely missed, but we are certain she will continue to do great work for sustainability everywhere she goes. So it's a tradition among the Climate Action Committee to adopt resolutions such as this for departing staff. So this is technically an action item, and the recommendation would be to adopt the proclamation. And here's Lizzie.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. It's been great working with you all during my 5 years with the City of Albany, but I know you're in great hands and are up to some amazing work, so I can't wait to hear more about it.
Okay, technically we'll take questions now if anyone has a question for Lizzie or about the proclamation.
Actually, I had a question. It occurs to me you might want to use this proclamation years down the road when you're applying for jobs or something like that. So would you prefer that it use your given name in the heading with Lizzie in parentheses, or would you really like it to be Lizzie?
I have no preference. I like it the way it is. But
Okay,
thank you
that's
for
fine.
asking. I appreciate it.
I didn't hear the last, please.
There's no need to change it. I think it's good the way it is, but I appreciate you asking.
Okay.
I guess we can move on to public comment.
Any members of the public that have a comment, please raise your hand. Looks like we don't have any hands raised.
I thought I saw Lucinda.
Yeah, there, just popped up. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Lizzie for all her the meetings the past few years that I have attended lots and lots of Climate Action Committee meetings, and just want to express my deep appreciation for her smoothly running these meetings and keeping everyone in line, and tolerating all the public comments over the years, and also for being very responsive. I've had various questions and things that have come up over the years and have emailed her, and really appreciate her responses and wish her the best in her position in San Mateo.
Okay, I guess we can move on to discussion and possible action.
I just wanted to say thank you, Lizzie, for the great years of support leading this committee. I've really enjoyed working with you, and I always appreciated your calm, straightforward way of working with us, and I always appreciate your passion for this topic. So I always felt that. So good luck to you, and thanks a lot.
Well, I'll second that. I didn't work with you for long, but it was great. And I actually had a little bit of a text edit to make this maybe a little bit meatier or something like that. In the sixth whereas, it says, Lizzie's presence at the Climate Action Committee meetings will be deeply missed, which is accurate. But it would be more accurate, I think, to say Lizzie's cheerful presence and thoughtful comments will be deeply missed. Just edit there. But I mean, Lizzie, you really helped a lot.
Thank you. You're all so kind. I appreciate it.
Just want to add my thanks. I too have only been here a few months, but everything I know I learned from Lizzie. So thank you for all your questions answered, and good luck.
I second that one too.
Thank you so much for all your guidance and support. I've always looked up to you, and good luck for everything going forward for you.
Yeah, good luck, and I hope San Mateo is a good spot for you. I hope you I don't know if you've started yet, but if you have, I hope you're enjoying it, and it's a great place to be there too. Good department.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I think we can have a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the proposal, or the, what's it called, proclamation. There we go.
Second.
Okay, Member Fasoon? Yes. Member Larson?
Yes.
Member Lieberman?
Yes.
Member Melgen?
Yes.
Member Vahil McClanahan?
Yes.
Chair Mohammed?
Yes.
Motion passed and adopted. Thank you so much, Lizzie.
Thank you all. Good luck, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Let me. Okay.
And then now we can move on to the next item.
So our next item is yet another proclamation of appreciation. It's been a lot of turnover recently. And unfortunately, Natasha was not able to join us this evening, but I will send along all of your thoughts and the proclamation as well, so we'll read it out for her. Proclamation in honor of Natasha Gallatin's term of service to the City of Albany. Whereas Natasha Gallatin has dedicated her time to serve the city as a Civic Spark Fellow, and whereas Natasha came to the City of Albany with a passion for sustainability, accessible public transportation, and social justice and equity, and whereas Natasha provided valuable project management for the street tree management plan, and whereas Natasha provided thoughtfulness and expertise to the Request for Proposals project for the SDMP, writing an RFP that beautifully outlined the aspirations and needs of the city. And whereas Natasha designed dozens of education and outreach materials that eloquently explain the benefits of composting and recycling and educated the community on SB 1383, making use of her excellent graphic design skills and creativity. And whereas Natasha engaged the community at the City of Albany's Community Expo, sharing resources and information about sustainability, electrification of homes and transportation, and waste reduction. And whereas Natasha approached every challenge with kindness, thoughtfulness, and attention to detail. And whereas Natasha's dedication and expertise have assisted the city in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, making an impact on global climate change. And whereas Natasha demonstrated the importance of public transportation by taking the bus to City Hall each day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Albany wishes to express its sincere gratitude and appreciation for Natasha Gallatin's service term with the City of Albany to help foster a sustainable future, and wishes her the best in her future endeavors. And I'm also happy to report that Natasha's future endeavors involve being a part-time employee of the Public Works Department here now. So we've kept her a little bit. That's the good news.
If there are any questions? Not, I think we can move on to public comment.
Any public commenters, please raise your hand. Doesn't look like we have any.
We can move on to discussion and public action, possible action of this item.
I'll move to adopt the proclamation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm still getting caught up on all of my windows here. I'm not as good as Lizzie yet. Okay. Okay, Member Fasoon. Yes. Member Larson.
Yes.
Member Lieberman.
Yes.
Member Melgen.
Yes.
Member Vahil McClanahan.
Yes.
Chair Mohammed.
Yes.
Passed and adopted. Thank you very much. Okay.
I guess we can move on to the next item.
This is item number 5.3, Climate Literacy Curriculum Resolution Proposal to the AUSD Board. There, catches up.
I have a question first. So is the recommendation, can you explain a little bit the statement and what that's supposed to look like? Is that just like a general thing, or is this like a quotation? And can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So this staff recommendation here is based on the conversation that the committee had last month. As you remember, I'm sure, our subcommittee, the two of you, shared the proposal, and then the committee kind of came to a conclusion that it was better to stick to something a little bit more general and let you kind of, the two of you, work on that proposal and more specifics separately with the school board, but keep the Climate Action Committee itself a little bit more removed from the actual like curriculum development. So the staff recommendation here is solely to adopt this general statement that you see written on the screen, which again is just very general, kind of stating support for this type of program, and kind of expressing a value of the Climate Action Committee, but without getting into any of the detail about the program itself.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be the action to take on this item, is just to adopt the statement on the screen itself.
Any other questions?
So how does this, that's on our, from the school board, our superintendent, fit into?
Yes, this is a public comment from Kim Trutain, who I think emailed this as well to the Climate Action Committee. So this is comment delivered to the Climate Action Committee, and something for you to use as context when deciding on the action.
Yes, I have a question for the committee members who brought this proposal the last few times down. Does that verbiage help you forward with bringing this project to AUSD?
Yeah, this looks great on our part.
And I'll clarify that the language here was drafted by the subcommittee members.
If there are no other questions, we can move on to public comment of this item.
And we can start with our public member of the public in the room here.
Thank you. I am Kim Trutain, the communications specialist for the Albany Unified School District. I'm here as a representative of the district, speaking for Superintendent Frank Wells. The climate crisis concerns us all, especially youth who will inherit this planet and be our future leaders. When the Board of Education adopted the AUSD Environmental Action Plan last spring, it was clearly stated that we needed to run the district in a sustainable manner and that we needed to teach students why it was important to do that, all while placing our actions into the context of global climate change. Albany Unified School District appreciates that the Climate Action Committee has also seen the need for climate education. To help clarify this discussion, I will briefly describe the curriculum approval process. When the AUSD Board of Education approves curriculum, it is the last step of the adoption process and precedes a professional learning and implementation process. The state of California has well-defined learning standards and a list of approved curricula. AUSD would convene a committee with administrative directors, teachers, and principals to study approved curriculum and select several to pilot. After teachers from multiple grade levels have piloted the curricula for 1/2 to a full year, the group reconvenes to discuss and compare experiences and results. After the committee makes a recommendation, the entire community is invited to inspect and comment. The new curriculum is brought to the Board of Education for further discussion and possible approval. I think what was previously proposed to this committee is different. My understanding is that Albany High School students, in particular students in the EdSet program, may want to visit elementary classes to teach certain topics while the classroom teacher is present. Our students can be excellent teachers and role models, and I look forward to working with them to define a program that would bring them into elementary classrooms. This would require a team approach involving high school and elementary teachers as well as principals with district oversight. Thank you for your shared commitment to our students and the education community. Dr. Frank Wells, Superintendent of Schools, Albany Unified School District. Thank you.
Are there any members of the public on Zoom that would like to make a comment? Please use the raise your hand feature. Lucinda, please go ahead.
I would simply support this. I know there was extensive discussion at maybe it was one of the previous committee meetings. I think that making this very general, recognizing that it is not the city's area of expertise or appropriate for the city to direct curriculum, but simply presenting it as it is, as a simple recognition that this is an important matter that the city would like to see our school district implement. Thank you.
This time we don't have any other hands raised.
Is this an appropriate time to share updates? Or should that kind of like, it's relating to this? The discussion.
Yeah, I'd say if it's related to this item, then yeah, this would be appropriate.
Yeah, so some exciting news. I was talking to folks at Berkeley and the ASUC Associate Students of University of California and their sustainability team, which is the Sustainability Commission for the University of California, Berkeley. And they were actually, funny enough, trying to get in contact with Albany to also implement climate literacy programs, which I thought was really cool. So I talked to some of the people in that club who were like, because they were trying to expand. They previously did ones in nearby cities. They did one, I think, San Leandro and some in Berkeley elementary schools. And so they already have set curriculum in place, and they were looking to expand that actually to Albany. So that could also like cut down a lot of workload if hypothetically we were to work with those folks at Berkeley. And kind of that would also take a lot of time and additional like planning of curriculum, because they did say that we could use their resources and expand, and this is already approved teaching resources that were approved by elementary school teachers in Berkeley and other cities. So that's exciting. And yeah, so we're hoping that the CAC is open to supporting this statement. And then from that, we'll work with, now we have some like partners to work with, collaborators, not really partners. And we'll start working on this outside of the committee a little bit more. And we would just really appreciate your support. And just to have, the more people that back it up, the more likely it is to move forward. So thank you for your consideration.
We're in discussion. That is such great news. It's wonderful. I think that's definitely the support that this undertaking deserves. And I really appreciate Dr. Trutaim for clarifying. I see that we have used the C word here, curriculum. And I think, I don't know if that header will come attached to the recommendation. And if it does, perhaps we could just change that to climate literacy education. We're all going for.
Yeah, I'll clarify, the header does not have to be attached to the statement itself, so the curriculum word won't be carried along.
Anything else? Any comments or anything like that? If not, we can move on to discussion and, any motions on this item?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the verbiage following staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, great. Member Fasoon?
Yes.
Member Larson?
Yes.
Member Lieberman?
Yes.
Member Melgen?
Yes.
Member Hill McClanahan?
Yes.
Chair Mohammed?
Yes.
Motion approved.
I guess we can move on to the next item, which is presentations.
Yes. Looks like it's loading a little slowly today, but our next item is a presentation from Committee Member Lieberman regarding EBCE, East Bay Community Energy, that is. I can go ahead and share that on the screen here for you. Moment.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. So as some of you probably know, my day job is working at East Bay Community Energy as the marketing director. And I always assume people know who we are, but maybe before I jump into the first slide, we are a public agency that was formed by a collection of cities in Alameda County and the county. So that joint powers agency includes the city of Albany. And we provide all of the electricity generation service for residents, businesses, and municipalities in that jurisdiction. So we generate the electricity for everyone in Alameda County, except for the island of Alameda and also the city of Tracy, and we're expanding out to the cities of Stockton and maybe Lathrop. That's being voted on right now. We have the EBCE board meetings at the same time as these meetings, so expanding a bit, and our board is made up of an elected official from each city we serve. So Mayor Tiedemann is on the board, and so that's what we do. We recently passed our fiscal year budget. Fiscal year for us runs July to June, and so along with that were some updates that I thought folks on this committee might be interested in hearing. So Shelley, you can advance to the next slide. So for rates, and these are effective July, that's when our budget was approved. So there are two services that people can choose from when they are on our service. The city of Albany has every customer placed on Renewable 100 when they become an electricity customer in Albany. So most Albany customers are using Renewable 100. Renewable 100 is a little bit more expensive than PG&E, but that premium has decreased. So in the previous fiscal year, it was 3/4 cent per kilowatt hour extra. That was a couple bucks for every, for the average resident. And now it's 1/4 cent per kilowatt hour above PG&E rates. The supply is all California wind and solar, including wind from a wind farm that we developed in Livermore a couple years ago. And it's nice to be able to tell customers in Albany that if they're on Renewable 100, it's typically less than $1 a month for the average Albany home. Customers also have the choice of Bright Choice, which is about half renewable energy, and the rates are below PG&E. That's actually the default service for customers, any customers who are on CARE, which is an income qualifying rate. So if you're on CARE, EBCE assumes that you want a discount, and so we place you on that service, but they're welcome to opt up to, Renewable 100 if they wish. And next slide. So this is just an update on electricity supply, because that is also moving from year to year. As I mentioned, in 2023, Bright Choice will be about 50% from renewable energy. In California, large hydropower is not considered renewable energy. So that's mostly wind and solar. PG&E is about 40% renewable, so we have more renewable energy content than PG&E's mix. It's 76% carbon-free in 2023 for Bright Choice, and on a basically a straight line to get to 100% carbon-free by 2030. You will get a mailer in a couple of weeks that is our power content label that will compare our, power mix to the state. And you'll see, and we also have another one that compares us to PG&E. You'll see that EBCE has slightly higher emissions for Bright Choice, which is unfortunate, but it's happening mainly because PG&E has such a low emissions factor because they are about 50% nuclear powered, and that's considered zero emissions. So I say it's good news for all. California's grid is getting very clean, and it's a race for who is getting cleanest, and that's a good thing. Renewable 100 is, as I mentioned, it's 100% California-sourced wind and solar, and we have a wind farm that we built a couple of years ago in Livermore that supplies all the wind. So that's pretty exciting, and on track for 100% carbon-free for all customers by 2030. And next slide. We have some direct customer benefits in the budget again this year, as we have in the past. Because we don't have shareholders, when we have extra revenue, we can use it for running programs or returning money back to customers or further reducing our rates. This year, we are again issuing a $50 bill credit to every customer who's on CARE and FARA. That's over 120,000 homes in the East Bay. And it's about it's over $6 million worth of bill credits. We did that last year also, and we just see it as a great benefit for customers who are having trouble paying their bills. And yeah, so that's one item I wanted to call out. Slide. Oh yeah, this is going pretty deep on the budget. I don't know if I'll go through, there's a whole series of slides after this that's probably too much detail. I packed it in there in case people were curious, but this year we have a local development fund that's for running local programs, and it's about $26 million, and you can see there the breakdown, real emphasis on transportation electrification. We're about to launch a 3-year, $10 million e-bike program that'll include both a try before you buy and also incentives that range from, I think, $400 to $1,000 for an e-bike. Some of the incentive amount depends on whether you are on CARE or whether you're getting like a long tail type of, like a, what do you call it? Like a commuter type bike, like a regular bike or a cargo bike, basically. So different levels of incentive. We're excited for that to launch probably in December. And we're also doing building electrification and some community resilience, which I think we've talked about a little bit in past meetings, doing microgrids on municipal buildings. Maybe we haven't, I can't remember. And then we have community grants, which are for nonprofits. We're doing $4.2 million over 3 years. We're just about to run a cycle, like a grant solicitation cycle. And those are, I think, in the $100,000 to $300,000 sort of range for grants for community programs that are revolving around the type of work that we do. And next slide. Yeah, these are a lot of detail. I don't know if we want to go through all of this, but just see, maybe we can go through very quickly so you can see. We're doing some funding of publicly available like electric vehicle fast charging hubs. We have a $3 million loan that we're giving to, or I think it's a no interest loan, to a company that's putting in a 96-unit electric truck charging depot in Livermore for drayage truck charging. There's that Ride Electric program that I mentioned. We're doing $2 million a year, and Alameda County Transportation Commission is putting in money too. So it'll be $10 million over 3 years in total. And the next slide, but some building electrification, including, you can see a workforce training program and some contractor work. And we have this program called Healthy Communities that it's really in planning mode right now. I would say this is, it's not something that we have ready to go, but we have budget allocated for it. So we're sort of working out the details on that program. And the next slide. We're doing this community resilience program, which is to put microgrids on critical municipal facilities. So imagine if we could put solar panels and battery storage on the community center, for example, or the fire station. So we're doing that in a number of cities. We have 30 sites that we're considering right now, or 29 sites. And you can see it's phased in, and Albany is a likely phase 3 location. So excited about that. And next slide. Oh yeah, these are the community grants that I mentioned. Solicitation coming soon. And then, yeah, I wanted to provide a snapshot of Albany energy consumption for the calendar year of 2022. We maintain all of this data. We get all the customer meter reads and everything. So if there's information that we need analyzed, I can look into it. EBCE serves 6,500 residential accounts, 600 non-residential accounts in Albany. 97% of customers get their electric service from EBCE in Albany. That's pretty typical of our service area. It's maybe slightly higher. I think we're maybe dipping down to 96, 95% in a few communities. As you can see, most of the customers are on Renewable 100. We have 15% of residents who have opted down to Bright Choice or just were on care rates, and so we left those customers on Bright Choice service. We have 668 customers who are on a care rate. So that's what, 10% of residential customers. And 580 on NEM, which means they have solar, rooftop solar. It's also a pretty nice number of accounts. I think that might be, oh yeah, the incentive finder. Oh yeah, so this is another thing that might be handy for everyone. I think this was the whole reason why I put the slideshow together. It's this new tool that we built. It's at incentives.ebce.org. It's also, it's the top of our homepage on our website, so it's easy to find. And the reason we built this was because a lot of customers were inquiring about different incentives, the federal incentives. We have state incentives and local incentives. There are incentives for buying an electric car. There are incentives for replacing your water heater, all kinds of things. And a lot of that information was contained in different places. So we'd say, oh, if you want this information, you have to go to this website or this one, whatever, PG&E, EPA, whatever. And so we took all of the data for federal, state, and local for building electrification and transportation electrification, and we baked it into one spreadsheet. And I think I am not aware of any other incentive finder that has that breadth or that scope that contains all of that data. So when, as a user, you have search parameters that include your zip code, whether you're a renter or owner, household income, tax filing status, et cetera, because of a lot of the incentives vary depending on those criteria, where you live, how much you earn, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very tailored result when you key in all of that data. And then once you key in those parameters and you hit find my incentive or whatever, incentivize me, you get results that you can sort by different subcategories like water heater or car or e-bike or whatever. You can pick the thing you're looking for, and then it has a list of links to those different incentives. The federal data are fed by an API, so it's fresh every day, the federal results. The state and local, we just manually entered all of that. Most of it we pulled from places like BayRen and PG&E, and we're just going to try and keep it as fresh as we can. And if the city of Albany has programs, we want to include them and get updates if things change, and so that way people in Albany will find those programs if they're using our finder. That's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Actually, I think a question for Michelle, but about what you just said. I have been wondering whether the different sustainability staff, different municipalities around the Bay are like linked and communicating in some formal way, in which case perhaps that body could push information, incentives finder, so that stuff gets fully utilized.
Yeah, great question. We are. There are multiple kind of regular meetings of Alameda County sustainability staff, and there's one in particular that is run by EBCE that happens once a month, where Dan spoke about this incentive finder before it had even launched. And yeah, so we are connecting on that, and I'm pretty sure that the Albany heat pump rebates are already on there.
I believe so.
I'm almost certain that they're on there already, but if not, we'll definitely make it happen.
And I'll mention we also have a monthly social media toolkit that we push out to all of the member cities that has information that they can put in social and on their newsletter and all of that stuff. We do it every month.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, we can move on to public comment. Oh, you have a
I
question?
did have some questions, sorry. I forgot where we were at there. Sorry about that. Thanks, Dan. That was really interesting. Couple questions. Did you say PG&E is 50% nuclear is in their portfolio?
Approximately, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot more than I thought.
The amount of nuclear in their power mix increases every year as they lose load to CCAs like East Bay Community Energy. So when a new community, like we're bringing in Stockton in 2025, that will mean less load that PG&E serves.
Okay.
They own Diablo Canyon, and so they're using that energy. So I think you're going to see the amount of nuclear in their mix go up because of load loss, not because there's more nuclear power.
Right, okay, thanks. And then what's happening with renewable energy storage? I know that, Mark, you gave some information about storage in your presentation. Is EBCE involved in storage as we grow our renewable portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, there are two ways primarily that we've been trying to increase the amount of storage. One is by building projects that have storage, like utility scale storage, co-located on those facilities. We have a part of our website that lists all the projects that have been built and the ones that have been contracted, and it includes reference to how much storage there is associated with that project. And then the other is we have a program called Resilient Home, and through a competitive solicitation, we selected Sunrun as our installation partner, and they have a special offer on storage if you bundle solar and storage when you have it installed. That's part of that program.
I've got a few more questions that I can share if other people have.
I had a comment and a question on storage. Last time this came up, I just guessed that the amount of storage in California was roughly the same as the size of the Diablo Canyon plant, 2,000 megawatts. It turns out that it's twice that much, 4,000 megawatts. The total solar peak generation is maybe 16 or 18,000 megawatts, that sort of ballpark. But the solar is progressing really fast. And I had a question for Dan, too. The co-located solar, is that put in there based on current economics, or is it some kind of a mandate, or is it an estimate for what the future is going to bring?
Or the, like, utility scale solar? Is that what you're saying?
I said solar, excuse me, I meant co-located storage. Excuse me for using the wrong word. Storage is what I meant.
We've contracted that through a series of competitive solicitations. And so we have some solar and wind that has been, and storage that have been constructed already. We have a geothermal plant that we've contracted for, and more solar and storage, and I think maybe some additional wind too. And it has, we have have a variety of contract terms and pricing and locations, and some of the information is publicly available, like on that table, and in our board meetings are all, videotaped and open to the public, just like these are, so you can sort of take in some of the information, but the pricing terms are not disclosed publicly because it would be a competitive disadvantage for us.
I didn't mean pricing terms. I meant, what's the driver for building storage? Because I'm probably out of date, but I thought it was so expensive that no one would do it unless they were forced to. But it sounds like things have changed.
The pricing has come way down, and we have to serve customers 24/7, and we intend to be 100% carbon-free without nuclear by 2030. So there are only so many options for us, and geothermal is a good one. We're having that built, but also, hundreds of megawatts of battery storage.
One more. On the fast charging hubs, do cities apply for that, or how does that work?
For the trucking one, that was sort of a one-off, I think. We're building this one big facility in Livermore. We have some other facilities that we're selecting through criteria like proximity to multifamily housing and opportunities to build on public, like city land. I wish I knew more than that. I'm not quite sure how the selection is going specifically, but I know we had criteria that were along those lines.
It's the fast charging hubs you're talking about.
We have both some fast charging hubs and some level 2 stuff I think we're doing also.
Okay.
We haven't broken ground on anything yet, so it's still a little early.
Any other questions? If not, we can move on to public comment.
Lucinda Young, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dan. Very interesting and informative presentation. I had a couple questions. Are your slides, could they be made available? I believe one of your first slides, which broke down the various options and the number of residents we have participating, I think it said that Bright Choice was at 15% with 975 residences. So would those be people that actively opted down, or is that include the care customers that are not put on that? I was just curious how many residents in Albany roughly, or what percentage have actively opted down from 100% renewable. And glad to see the incentives.EBCE Finder. I think there's a big need for that. I'm wondering, does that provide information that is not on the switches on? I have used the switches on to find incentives, and I don't know if you have there's some other information on EBCE's Finder that is not on switches on. I have had a little trouble with switches on. There's some delay when there's a change in the incentives. It takes a little while for it to get on or be reflected in the switches on. And the other question, I've had several, I heard you say that, there's a wind facility or farm in Livermore. I've had people ask me, well, where does the solar, we're 50% solar, 50% wind. Where does all our solar come from? So I don't know if you have an answer to that. And I think that's it. Thank you. Oh, and very glad to hear about the e-bike incentives. Really excited to hear about that. Unfortunately, I got impatient waiting and I bought an e-bike about 2 months ago. So I'm out of luck, but I'm looking happy that a lot of other people will be able to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Michelle, should I address any of those questions, or okay, after? Okay.
Yeah, after everyone goes, we can address them. Next up is Nick Medeiros.
Good evening, Dan and members of the committee. Thanks for this exciting presentation. And thanks to Michelle for publishing our annual energy use report for all the different building types and energy, electrical, and gas usage for the city of Albany. I wanted to ask Dan if he could provide some more information about what data might be available to Michelle to incorporate, because EBCPA has all of the electrical and gas data. What is the anonymization and interval is annual data, for instance, something that could be provided that adds some granularity to Michelle's report, and is monthly a possibility with that. So that's my first question. My second question is, we had a presentation from JP Ross about our solar and resiliency on critical use facilities for community back right at the beginning of the pandemic, actually. It was a great presentation about PPAs and funding. I think you mentioned that we're now in phase 3 and Albany's potentially able to participate in that phase 3. So my question about that is, do you have a list of the potential critical use buildings that exist here in the city of Albany that have potential for solar, and could that potentially include schools? Because we do have a RFP coming up for our school solar. Thank you.
Okay, we have no more public comment.
All right, I'm happy to address a couple of those points really briefly, starting with Lucinda Young's comments. In the slides, which I think Michelle can make available.
Yes, they're already available on the city website under the Climate Action Committee agendas.
Okay, great. If Lucinda, if you look in the slides, you'll see both the opt-down information and the number of care customers, and I think it's pretty similar. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that most of the opt-downs are probably related to customers being on care, because I think that number is pretty similar. The question about switches on, yeah, we use their site. You'll see if you use the incentive finder, it brings up the incentive and you click on it, it's going to take you to the source of the incentive. So you'll see which content is from switches on when you're there. And then there was a question about source of the solar energy for Renewable 100, and that is, I believe, primarily our facility in Rosamond, California, which is just east of Bakersfield, I think. There's information about that site on our Power Projects page. And then for Nick's questions, my notes aren't as clear. Oh, what data are available? Sorry, I have terrible handwriting. The data, we do have access to all of this data. Oh, I see what my note is that he referenced gas data. That is actually something we don't get. We can see the customer's blue bill, which is the bill that they get from PG&E, but it's really onerous to go through these PDFs and pull customer gas data. We've thought about doing it like through a visual thing, but it's just a lot, and we don't sell gas. But we do have all of the data, that from the meter reads, and then the challenge is keeping it anonymized. I think that you mentioned that, and making sure we don't violate what's called the 30/30 rule, which is basically releasing data that would disclose too much information about a particular large customer in Albany. For example, if their load took up more than a certain share of Albany's load, we try and keep that confidential. We have all this data for staff. It's in a Google Data Studio, visualizer. It's really nice, and we've been hoping to just share that with city folks, but our head of IT has said there are too many ways that it would basically violate the 30/30 rule, so I think maybe we'll get to the point where we can clean it up or have a sort of subset of data available, because we want to be able to share it with cities. And until then, I'm happy to call, if Michelle has a request and wants a certain amount of data, then I should be able to pull basic data for her.
Yeah, I can add also that when I do my KPI or key performance indicator reports each spring, I do get in contact with folks at EBCE to get our annual data for that year. I don't do it on a monthly basis, but I do it on an annual basis, and I'm always able to get data very easily, although, like Member Lieberman said, it is limited, and that's based on state laws about what kind of data is allowed to be shared with cities, so there's really nothing we can do about some of those factors, but the data that I am allowed to have, I'm able to get, so.
And then I think there was a question about sort of expanding our municipal facilities program to schools and other buildings, and I listened in on our EBCE's community group, board. Why am I forgetting the name of it right now? It's another CAC, the Community Advisory Board or Council. And there was a public comment made about having it available for nonprofits and schools. I think that idea is percolating around now. First phase, definitely municipalities, but based on observation, I could imagine that it would continue with an expansion of the types of buildings.
Actually, I have a question about the phases. So, do we have a timeline of when the phases come out, or?
Yeah, I think that might be way down in the details of the budget plan, but I'm not familiar enough to give you a good answer. I wish I could.
Yeah, we've been communicating with other staff at EBCE because we are part of phase 3 right now, and have basically been told that it's they're working on it, but there isn't a specific date yet. It just kind of depends on how long it takes to get phase 2 wrapped up and to kind of get the wheels in motion and make everything happen. So I think it's a little TBD at this point.
Any other comments? Or
This is sort of tangential, and thanks to the public commenter who mentioned natural gas. Do we have a specific, numeric KPI associated with natural gas usage?
Yes, we do. That data is within the KPI presentation that I believe I shared this April or possibly in May. So you could go back and take a look. Again, there are some limits on the data that we have. So for instance, we don't have any real data on non-residential gas usage. I have some estimates, but we do have pretty good residential gas usage data.
I think I'm gonna look that up and try and share it with people just as a sort of a driver. I think it might motivate people those who can, to make the switch. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for your attention and questions.
Is there a public discussion part now?
But we're in discussion right now.
Okay. Well, I'm impressed. I don't know what PG&E is up to, but there's a lot of meat to this proposal. It's clear that EBCE means community in their name. There's a bunch of really good things here. I'm particularly interested in one based on my personal experience recently in trying to hire an electrician. And I wonder if the electrician apprenticeship program could be featured on the Albany e-newsletter. I don't know if that's legal, but if it is, the city council talks about jobs, jobs, jobs a lot. And there's a crying need for electricians? So I'll just tee that question up.
I can look into that. Thank you.
And another, this is a comment. 97% of us get our electricity from EBCE, so that's part of our bill. But totally separate from EBCE, there's a chunk of our electricity bill that goes to PG&E to pay for the wires. That's likely to go up a fair amount. PG&E is planning to invest on the order of $10 billion in undergrounding distribution lines over the next 4 years. And then I've mentioned this before, but I'll just remind everybody, the nature of PG&E's charges is going to change by next July as a function of a PUC proceeding that's going on now. And people are going to pay a fixed charge that's proportional to household income, and then the variable rate for electricity is going to drop. So people who don't make a whole lot of money and use a lot of electricity are going to come out ahead. And people who, and I think this includes a lot of Albany residents, don't use that much electricity and have medium or high incomes. So we are going to see the PG&E portion of our bill go up potentially quite a chunk July of next year. And don't blame EBCE. That's all on PG&E's plate.
If there are no other like comments or anything, we can move on to.
I'll jump in here just to bring us back to a question back from the announcements, I believe, or earlier, Member Melgen asked about the subcommittee updates, which would usually go in this spot. And I'm really sorry that I completely overlooked that in putting together the agenda and just accidentally left it out. I've been checking in and advised that technically, because it's not on the agenda, we're not allowed to have a full discussion. However, if members of the other subcommittees have just kind of small updates, we could reopen the announcements section and just kind of give an announcement version of a subcommittee update. So no real discussion, no decisions could be made, but if you just kind of have a quick update to give to the committee, we could open the announcements section now to do that briefly. So Chair Mohammed, I'll leave it to you if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we can move on to announcements, reopen it. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, if any members of the subcommittees have brief announcements, please go ahead.
Well, there's a home electrification mandate subcommittee. I don't like the word mandate very much. But a fellow I know is getting his electricity and, of course, his gas from PG&E, and they've begun sending out home energy reports. And it seems like it's a really useful report. It combines electricity and gas on a BTU basis, like I did in a presentation a while back. And then it provides a rough idea of how his house compares to similar houses in the area. I tried to contact PG&E to see if they would work with EBCE so that this could be rolled out to everybody in Albany with the electric data from EBCE, the gas data from PG&E, and then have people get in the mail a home energy rank, not merely a score, but also a rank that says your house compared to comparables around you is in the 20th percentile, you're among the best, or among the worst. Because I think that kind of thing might get people's competitive juices flowing. So I'm going to keep on trying on this. My next step is to try to contact people at EBCE since we had no success going through PG&E. 'E. 'E. That's the end of my report.
I'll start on the zero energy transportation and let Dan chime in as well. So the subcommittee is Dan, Troy, and myself, and we have a member from the Transportation Commission, Ken McCroskey, who is officially part of our subcommittee by the City Council, and so we met with Ken. And first thing we did was discuss what is on the Transportation Commission's sort of list of things that they're interested in. And so I wanted to report to the Climate Action Committee. And Michelle, I sent you a slide set. I don't know if that can be posted or whatever, but we can save it till next month if that's
that might need to be for
awkward,
next
so
month,
that's
sorry.
fine. Okay, so they're doing an update to their active transportation plan. They have an existing active transportation plan. They're updating it. They're still in the process of getting that. We're going to be able to review it when it gets to a draft form, so that's good. They're interested in especially Masonic bike traffic from like Solano down to Berkeley, sort of that south corridor on Masonic. It's a high bike traffic area, so they're interested in what they can do to make bike traffic more safe and promote it. Interested in Solano Avenue, of course. Handicap accessible and pedestrian facilitation are the two topics that they're sort of trying to improve on. Increase the separated bikeways in Albany, meaning having actual curbs or some sort of divider between bikes and traffic and pedestrians. And again, this is all like topics that they're interested in. There's nothing specific that we talked about that's actually happening, but these are, just so we know what they're kind of interested in. Protected bike parking in multifamily housing and single-family housing. So that, again, helps people feel safe about having their bike. If it gets stolen, then they're less likely to want to replace it and get a new one. And subsidized transit cards to incentivize public transport, especially for youth. And I thought that was we really picked up on that as being a really interesting thing and something that would, DD funding could, potentially be involved in. So that's sort of the transportation subcommittee part that we learned, what they're interested in, and because there's a lot of overlap with Climate Action Committee, and so that was good. And so areas of interest for the three of us, we kind of had a little discussion about what we three are particularly interested in and what we're interested in pursuing. And the charging station pilot program was a great example of how we can actually get something done. So we're kind of following that model. So Troy is interested in commercial parking charging, especially return on investment for commercial parking, charging stations, and utility pole-mounted EV chargers. So he's going to pursue some research on those and come back to the committee with some ideas, and then we'll take it through the proposal stage. Since I'm talking, I'll go ahead and say my own. I'm interested in city-owned property charging station, especially the community center, in adding charging stations to that area. The City Hall, revisiting the idea of getting charging stations at City Hall, and the city vehicle fleet transition to electric vehicles. So those are the things I'm going to start researching and coming back with some ideas. And Dan, do you want to?
Oh, yeah, I was going to pursue researching opportunities for public EV charging curbside in front of commercial buildings that are not on Solano. So imagine, the cross streets of Solano, for example, the YMCA or the post office, something like that. There might be an opportunity for like a single unit charger or maybe two charging units there, but I think we need to do an inventory and learn more. So that's what I hope to do.
That's where we're at. Hopefully, another update next month.
So it will be on the agenda for more lengthy discussion.
All right.
I think, Chair, since technically we have run through public comment and discussion for announcements, we could skip ahead to future agenda items, or we could reopen public comment and discussion if you like. That's up to you.
I think just in case we should open it to public comment.
So any members of the public, please go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to comment. Looks like we don't have anyone.
Okay, we can move on to future agenda items. So are there any requests for future agenda items? I think we do have a public comment. I think Lucinda Young,
Might be for future agenda items. I'm not sure.
okay.
We can reopen it if you want, or stay on future agenda items.
Let's just reopen it.
Yeah, let's see. Lucinda Young, you can go ahead, or if it was for future agenda items, you can let us know and we'll.
I raised my hand for a future agenda item.
Okay.
So if you want to wait,
Great, yeah, we'll come back to you then. Thank you. Back to the committee.
Okay, we can move on to future agenda items. Are there any requests for future agenda items?
There's something I'm interested in discussing if there's anyone else on the committee who's interested in discussing this, which is sort of what opportunities are presented by the closing of Golden Gate Fields. And I imagine that's going to get discussed in the Public Open Space Committee, but it definitely affects our work climate. So I'm a little fuzzy on procedure here. If I wanted to discuss more about that, would it be an agenda item that we discuss it? Would it be seeing if members here want to discuss in subcommittee? How do we do that?
I think what we would do would be to put it on the agenda, and then potentially from that discussion, it could lead to a subcommittee. You know, obviously I'd have to check in with, you know, those above me about how things are going there and whether we have anything to bring as an agenda item right now. But yeah, it would start as an agenda item of some kind, and then that could potentially lead to a subcommittee being formed, I believe.
That's great. Yeah, I'd love to hear, I guess, from staff, ways in which that intersects with the climate action plan.
I think you already got this, but the update on the DD funds clarification.
And pursuant to that, I know it felt, when we were learning about it, like it was a bit of a moving target, but if, to the extent possible, we could know exactly how much money over what period of time is awaiting assignment. Thank you so much for bringing that to that last meeting. That was kind of mind-blowing.
If there are no other requests, we can go on to public comment.
yes.
Go ahead.
This is Lucinda Young, and I have a couple of public comments. I do think it would be beneficial to get clarification about the Measure DD funds, and I did have some communication with Councilmember Jordan, who gave me information which didn't jive with what was presented at the meeting, and he had indicated he was checking in with I think it was the general manager, and would follow up. So I think it's important for us all to get clarification on what DD funds are sitting there waiting for us to implement. As a member of the public who supported and also campaigned for Measure DD, it's really important to see that those funds have been expended for climate action. And the other matter I wanted to suggest is that our city that we recommend that our city declare a climate emergency. There are 2,346 jurisdictions and local governments around the world who have declared climate emergencies, including Berkeley, El Cerrito, Alameda County, Contra Costa County, lots and lots of local jurisdictions in our state. President Biden has been considering, but has not yet declared a climate emergency, and I would like to see Albany join these other jurisdictions. And you may ask, well, why is it so important to declare a climate emergency? And I think there are a lot of reasons, but one in particular, I see a lot of decisions made by our local government which are made without consideration of our climate action plan. And I think if there is an emergency declaration, it's going to be a lot easier to request that every decision made by every department of the city take into account the climate action plan in their decisions. So I would request that be considered as a future agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, we have no other public comments.
I think we can go ahead and adjourn. Our next meeting will be October
18th.
18th. Thank you.